Well, there's an old saying that you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. And it appears James Gunn and Peter Safran have cracked a few. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about that DCU announcement and how it may have ruffled some feathers behind the scenes at Warner Brothers. Now, as many of you know, James Gunn and Peter Safran took over the new DC studios, but they are technically not studio executives. And this week's presentation with journalists to present the new DCU 10-year plan, Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, well, they were pretty candid about multiple topics, and it seems to have not gone over very well at the Warner Brothers offices down in Southern California. James Gunn was really candid about how Henry Cavill was ousted from the DCEU and how he was treated, and made it pretty clear the previous regime was totally responsible for that and it was completely mishandled. Now, fans have had quite a bit to say about the new slate and the news and all the new announcements. Some good, some bad. But it's pretty clear that James Gunn is very confident in his ability to lead this new DC universe. Now, those remarks that ruffled a couple feathers went on several fronts. Some MCU fans are a little upset at his apparent insinuations that he won't be doing things like Marvel Studios and he may have a better approach. And quite honestly, I don't know what people were expecting there. He is not going to make a photocopy of Kevin Feige's plan, and I'm sure as a creative, James Gunn and Safran have their own ideas in places they may have gone in a different direction. Now it's clear they're taking a couple chapters out of Kevin Feige's book. Just literally having a plan to work from is a big jump for Warner Brothers Studios, but he's clearly following his own path. First and foremost, not calling it phases but chapters, which I like, but honestly, storytelling is storytelling and people do it in different ways, and that is absolutely fine with me. Now, as far as Warner Brothers Discovery, The Hollywood Reporter had a couple of comments about that. And apparently some brass over there is not too happy. In the Hollywood Reporter article, they actually revealed, and I quote, "Some of Gunn and Safran's comments were not exactly tactful. The previous regime is actually some of the same people who are currently in charge of Warner Brothers, and there's quite a few ruffled feathers, from what we've been told." Now, I found this pretty funny, and honestly, Hollywood executives don't really like being called out in public, so none of this surprised me at all. I totally expected it when Gunn said it. Now, what's interesting though is Gunn and Safran's response, or even the fact they said it at all. They clearly appear not too worried about upsetting people, and this to me seems to indicate where they're standing right now with the actual boss, David Zaslav. This should have been pretty apparent to many people the way A-lister Dwayne Johnson was completely booted from the role of Black Adam. We know what the public sentiment was, but everybody saw the shenanigans going on with the attempts to steer and control the DCU, and that actor holds a ton of sway at Warner Brothers. So clearly Gunn is given his own power here, and he absolutely has to have the backing of somebody in charge, and that appears to be David Zaslav. Honestly, as fans, I don't really think we should care about any of this. The executives at Warner Brothers were pretty much responsible for the snafu that was happening before, and it's really sad that the truth hurts people's feelings so often. Gunn and Safran were pretty spot on with all of their comments. Cavill really did get the shaft in an inappropriate way. I think the previous leadership misled him in many ways, and honestly, they just handled the whole DC franchise at almost every level poorly. Whether you like him or not, Zack Snyder at least had a plan, and once Snyder exited the whole DC world, the wheels completely fell off the wagon, and nothing really realigned itself very properly since. We have had some really high-quality solo movies, there's no doubt about that, but things have just never quite been the same because DC has never really had a plan. I see all of this as good news, and I'm not really worried at all whose feathers are ruffled once the new Superman Legacy comes out and fans see what Gunn has to offer, as long as it's really good. And the box office returns reflect that. Everybody at Warner Brothers Discovery will be too busy counting money to care about their ruffled feathers.